So, what is the number one indicator of student success on in their educational journey? The number one indicator is parent involvement. When parents are involved in their children's educational journey, hands down, they are equipped to do much better than their peers. On today's session of the Roundtable, I want to sit down and talk about how vital it is for parents to be engaged in their child's education and how Litchfield Christian School is going to do everything in its power to create a culture of parent involvement so that our children will be empowered to be successful. Sit down, relax, take a moment to join us as we enter on this discussion. All right. Thank you for joining us today on this session of the Roundtable. Today, we are talking about parent involvement and why it's important to your child's education and why it's vital that the school that they attend, public, private, and everything in between, have something in place, a framework in place to ensure that parents are actively engaged in the educational process of the child. This is something that is, um, in my opinion, designed by God to be an instrument of grace to make sure that our children are empowered to understand and enjoy His goodness in the process of education. It's by God's design that the parents are the primary spiritual and physical caregivers of their children. And the Bible calls parents to disciple their children in a way that does not hinder their children from tasting and seeing that the Lord is good and that He alone is to be worshiped with all their heart, mind, soul, and strength for all eternity. And considering this major component that parents are the primary disciples of their children, then it makes perfect sense that they need to have an active part inside of the educational journey. And so today we want to look at that. We want to see how does an educational ministry of the church, such as the school that we're starting, seek to use parents in a way that their engagement and their involvement in the child's educational journey is good and productive and fruitful. And we're going to be looking at a few things like Joy Epstein's framework for parental involvement. That's a secular model that's been used inside of the public school system, and it's something that we're going to use inside of Litchfield Christian School. And we're going to look at some of the benefits to why this is important. And so I think starting off, though, maybe it's common sense. Maybe it's something that we already intuitively know, but I think it's worthwhile understanding first of all, a definition of what it means. What are we talking about when it talks about parent involvement? And then what are the benefits to it? And then, of course, how in the world are we going to do it? It all sounds good, but how does the rubber hit the road? And so just a little bit of understanding the framework of education. What does, say, secular society see as parent involvement? Parent involvement, according to the Every Child Succeeds Acts, is simply the participation of parents in regular, two-way, and meaningful communication involving student academic learning and other school activities, including integral role in assisting their child's learning. Number two, active involvement in their child's education at school in the physical classroom, to some degree, like volunteering. Partners in their child's education as decision making on, say, advisory committees or curriculum assignments and whatnot. And fourth, carrying out activities whether it's sports related or it's school related or whatnot. That's a kind of a complicated definition in my book. I think that Wendy Gronelnick and Maria Sloik offered us really nice definitions, pretty concise. And essentially, parent involvement is dedication of resources by a parent to a child within the domain of education. It's that parents are engaging all their resources to the benefit of their child. And I think that is kind of simply put, and that's what we're trying to do. And that's what we want to encourage our parents to do, to take the resources that they have, uh, time, talent, treasure, those kind of resources, and how are they going to effectively wield them for the success of their children on their educational journeys. Now, there are a variety of ways that parents dedicate their resources to children. Parents can be involved in a children's schooling by engaging in school functions like parent-teacher conferences, for starters. They can take an active role in the home by making sure they set aside time for like homework. They can arrange space in a home that is conducive to finishing the homework, providing encouragement, modeling a good work ethic. These are all really good ways that parents can be involved with their children inside of that home domain, and give resources there. They can also advocate for their child's learning in the classroom, take an active role inside of some of the decision making inside the school. What I'm finding is, in that element is missing in some schools, private and public, where the school is not as open to allowing parents to have that. I think that's something that Litchfield Christian School is going to really strive to do, is to help parents really be involved in and own some of that decision making for planning and developing an education community for their children's sake. Of course, benefits to this are just off the charts. Professional education administrators understand, for a long time, they've understood the value of parental involvement. I think that David Topora, he talks about this in parent involvement in student academic performance, a multiple mediational analysis, something that he wrote. He says this: parent involvement in a child's early education is consistently found to be positively associated with a child's academic performance. Specifically, children whose parents are more involved in their education have higher levels of academic performance than children whose parents are not involved. The influence of parent involvement on academic success has not only been noted among researchers, but also policymakers, and integrated into aimed at increasing parent involvement into broader educational system. Uh, Deborah Davis contends that parental participation involves student learning, whether the child is in preschool or upper grades, whether or not his family struggling economically or affluent, or whether parents finished high school or graduated from college, yields significant advantages. And some of these advantages, she notes that when parents dedicate these resources to their children's education, they tend to have higher grades, they have higher test scores, they have better attendance, they have more homework completed, they have fewer placements in special education, they have more positive attitudes and behaviors, higher graduation rates, and greater enrollment in post-secondary education. And even the Center for Disease Control advocates parental involvement in their children's education because it promotes healthy behaviors. Children whose parents are engaged in their education are less likely to take up smoking and binge drinking, and they're more engaged in school and learning, and they have less destructive behaviors, that less attempts at suicide and eating behaviors or disorders, and they practice healthy stress management. So this is all common sense, I think, for the most part, but it's good to hear and see that there is statistical data that says when parents are engaged in their child's education, it's a win-win. It's always a win-win. And so we want to encourage parents to take an active role in taking their resources and pouring them into this educational domain, if you will, for their children. And that's not something that's just done willy-nilly. I think there has to be a plan. There has to be something that is constructed. And so, in my experience in education, when schools have a plan, when they have a framework to work from to get parents involved, and they stick to that framework, that you have a really good relationship that's developed between parents and schools. Now, I'm not naive. I've been in the school system long enough to know that is an interesting relationship between parents and schools. Sometimes the parents look at schools and are almost an us versus them or a unfavorable context. There's a bad relationship there for whatever reason, or sometimes the schools look at parents as not able to handle the work that's bring home or something like that. There's all kinds of reasons why, but we have to create a place where the school and the parents are able to influence each other. And I think Joyce Epstein has done a phenomenal job in her research of of you know, not only explaining the benefits and why it's wise, but creating a really good framework to work from, that schools that use this framework have a higher parent involvement and success rate. And a lot of her work has been done in the 90s and early 2000s. She's still doing some great stuff. But essentially, what she has done is she's taking the theory of overlapping spheres of influence, which in her theory is the community, the school, and the home, and how these influence each other, and how so she says things like the external model of the theory of overlapping spheres of influence recognizes that there are three major contexts in which students learn and grow. And she says students learn and grow in the home, the school, and the community, and they may be drawn together or pushed apart. So her model includes sections showing that schools and families and communities conduct some practices separately, but at the same times there are times when they overlap, and where these things overlap or these influences overlap, there is great opportunity there for interactions and patterns of influence where they can help the child become a better learner and a more confident student. And so she explains that essentially in some schools, there are educators who say, well, if the family would just do its job, we could do our job, right? And then there are families who say, I raised this child, now it's your job to educate her. And she says that there are sentences of separate spheres of influence. Other educators say, I cannot do my job without the help of the students, families, and support from its community. And other parents say, I really need to know what's happening in the school in order to help my child. And these are sentences of overlapping spheres. And so Epstein's point is very clear. The most effective partnerships between family, school, and community recognize the value and significance of these spheres uniting to work together. And so in my understanding of education, or the way I see life, my spheres of influence, I would contend, are the church, community, and home. And when these three spheres overlap together, this is where the child thrives socially, emotionally, cognitively in their educational journey. And so what we want to do is have it be a school that tries to build supportive relationships and partnerships with parents and the community so that we can educate the child holistically and empower them in God's goodness. And so for Epstein, she describes these partnerships as family-like schools, school-like families, and school and family-like communities. And for her, in family-like schools, Epstein describes a two-way partnership between the school and the family that has a positive impact on the child. She says things like, in a partnership, teachers and administrators create more family-like schools. A family-like school recognizes each child's individuality and makes each child feel special and included. And family-like schools welcome all families, not just those that are easy um, to reach, right? And she says that school-like families also, here's that partnership. On the other side of that relationship, families are expected to reciprocate the relationship by recognizing the school's role in the child's success. So Epstein would elaborate that in a partnership, parents create more school-like families. A school-like family recognizes that each child is also a student, and families reinforce the importance of school, homework, and activities, and build student skills and feelings for success. So you have this cooperation now happening between the school and the home. The home recognizes the school's influence inside the child's life and makes sure they honor that inside the house by making sure that that homework is done and that education takes a priority, and that if it means reading to your child for 15 to 20 minutes every night, and that's taken care of. At the same time, the school recognizes that families are extremely important and that they have a place inside the educational journey, and they want to bring those families into that journey, even on the premises of the school. Now, the third part of that component is getting the community to cooperate with those as well. And so Epstein says the community's role, including groups of parents working together to create school-like opportunities, events, and programs that reinforce, recognize, and reward students for good progress, creativity, contributions, and excellence. So communities also create family-like settings, services, events that enable families to better support their children. And so partnerships between the school, the family, and the community are important for students to experience success in the school, because all three contribute to a holistic approach to education. All three spheres of influence have the same goal in mind, and are intentional in making and maintaining those partnerships. And they work together to keep those partnerships together. And so I think this is probably one of the best models out there for parent involvement, because I personally see the church, community, and home as spheres of influence. And I think when the church recognizes that the families are the primary disciple makers of their children, or parents are rather of their children, and that we need to champion those parents and make sure that those parents are equipped to disciple their children and educate their children, and that on the same token that the families recognize that the church inside of this, our school, is also very important, as we're trying to give them a robust education and also accomplish that same thing as far as introducing them to the gospel and helping them have a wise and good relationship with the Lord and with each other, that they work together for that, and that the community comes alongside and sees that this is beneficial and creates opportunities for the church and the school to participate inside the community. I just think this is a great opportunity, a great model for us to use. Okay. And so from this spheres of influence, Epstein says there are 6 components, 6 type of involvements, if you will, that are helpful. And so from these 6 types of involvements, we want to create a plan that helps parents be engaged in Litchfield Christian School. And so for Epstein, the first thing is parenting. Type 1 involvement seeks to help families establish home environments that supports children as students. And so this kind of involvement occurs when families practice or family practices in home environments support children as students, and when schools understand children's families. So examples include like parent education and courses and training for parents, and family support programs that assist families with health and nutrition and other services, home visits, and transition points, maybe from elementary to middle school to high school. And so families, the parenting side of it, making sure that your child is your child and that child is also a student, and that the school also recognizes, hey, we can help these parents and support them in their parenting. Number 2 is communication, which is massive. The design effective forms of school to home and home to school communication. If the ball gets dropped anywhere, it is in communication. And so examples would include, everything from conferences with every parent at least once a year, if not twice a year, to making sure that there are weekly notices or memos, phone calls, text messages, video things, class tag, all those things, to make sure that communication is on the forefront. If the school and the home and the community are all communicating, man, life is good. Volunteering is the third type of involvement, right? When educators, students, and families recruit and organize parent help and support, and count on parents as an audience for student activities or as an engager in student activities, this is vital. And school and classroom volunteer programs are necessary to support teachers, administrators, and students. And parents get an opportunity to use their skill set, how God has gifted them, to help out the school, creating a parent room or a family center for volunteer work, for meetings, for resources for families, surveying giving surveys out to identify the talents of these parents, the times, locations, and just making sure that these parents have an opportunity to engage in volunteering at the school. Learning at home is the fourth type for her. This would be it involves incur or occurs when information, ideas, and training are provided to educate families on how they can help their students at home with homework and with curriculum-related activities, decisions, and planning. This is really big. Students are not going to get enough in the classroom. There needs to be learning it done at home, and there's all kinds of ways to foster learning. Homework is one of them, and homework's a big deal. But there's also ways to help parents engage children in activities at home that foster learning, whether it's journaling or it's reading or it's even going in the backyard and doing some kind of analysis, some kind of fun game type stuff. Um, but the school can help provide information for families on skills required for students for subjects at each grade level, and the families could have the opportunity to kind of work on them at home casually, informally. Educators could give parents information on homework policies and parents be able to monitor those policies and maybe even have a say inside of those, because sometimes parents feel like homework is overloaded and their child is spending an hour and a half at the table doing homework, and they kind of want more of that family time. So again, that communication is important, but there has to be learning taking place at home, and there also has to be understanding that the home is a place where families want to do family things. Type five is decision making. Involvement occurs when schools include parents in decisions. I think this is the touchy area I find inside of schools. Decision making involves, or occurs when parents are encouraged and equipped, by the way, to participate in things like PTAs, PTOs, parent action committees, that kind of thing, advisory councils. And then when they are involved, and they make recommendations, that those recommendations are taken seriously. And I think if whether public or private school, wherever you are, if there is a weak link inside of this, I think here's where it is. It's maybe not taking parental considerations or contributions seriously enough. And so I would what I want to do at Litchfield Christian School is create an atmosphere where we equip our parents in the education world to contribute, which means they have to understand the vocabulary, they have to understand the goals and the aims and the processes a little bit, and then we invite them in to help us clarify, to be clearer, to aim better, to work better, and then we take those recommendations seriously. And so decision making, I think, is really vital. And then finally, type six is collaborating with the community. This occurs when services and resources and partners are integrated in the educational process to strengthen school programs, family practices, student learning and development. Collaborating with the community means coordinating resources and services from community of families to students to school, whether it's needs based, families who are needing services, to even working with um, rec parks and recs for service projects, community health, cultural, recreational, social support, all kinds of things that the community can collaborate with the school to do to help make sure that the home and the school is healthy and good and safe with the community. And so these are the six components right there, just so we kind of understand, what they are: parenting, communicating, volunteering, learning at home, decision making, and collaborating with the community. And so when a school uses this framework to involve parents, you're going to create opportunities where parents can have a lot of opportunity to engage their children and enjoy their children's educational journey and feel like they've taken an active part inside of it. For us, I think that um, I would say for us, one of the things that we want to do is we want to create a framework where we utilize this parenting and communication and volunteering and all those things to help parents implement their ideas into the educational process where they're taken seriously and they get to see the fruit of this this relationship, right? And so, for instance, what would it look like, say, at Litchfield Christian School, as we're just kind of throwing some ideas out there? What would something like parenting look like? I think that looking at it from a Christian perspective, looking at it from our school's perspective, a parent's relationship with their child is the cornerstone to their success, and so this is going to be a big component for us. Parents are to use their meaningful relationship with their child in the context of a shared life experience to train their children in both moral and practical wisdom, and that involves both the church and the educational institution. And so we want to be somebody who trains and involves and equips parents to do this. For instance, since the Bible calls parents to disciple their children in such a way they're unhindered from tasting and seeing that the Lord Jesus is good and that He's alone to be worshipped, then we're to help parents leverage their lives and their resources to do that. And to do that, we need to offer opportunities for parents to learn what does it mean to parent your child in a way that God honors. What are resources we can give you to disciple your child and to also help uh, incorporate wisdom and virtue into your child's life? God has given us as a church to help champion that, and so he's created the church and the family to work together. I think it'd be kind of cool for us to see parents offered classes in mind, and maybe even they attend the classes that help them understand God's design for parenting, for guidance and support, and giving them some training, and that we're also able to reward them maybe with some scholarship money or something to help them offset some of the financial costs. Invite parents to help plan and implement maybe some kind of family seminar to address variety of family needs and discipleship in the home, and maybe we put that on through the school. Maybe we help also parents reflect wonderful milestones of accomplishment, so celebrating these milestones with the body of Christ and the family, uh, you know the birth of a baby or a sibling, a faith commitment, preparing for adolescence, maybe a commitment to sexual integrity, passage into adulthood, high school graduation, coming along parents and helping them realize that these are major milestones in your child's life that we want to celebrate and help commemorate with you. And maybe we do something like that to help parents be involved in that. Helping parents have faith talks with their children, intentional discussions that mothers and fathers or guardians or grandparents have with their children on a daily or weekly basis that helps them identify God's handiwork in creation, or deeper soul care issues they're wrestling with. To offer counseling and guidance to parents, devotional resources, training to help them kind of grow in God's grace. So these are ideas that we're thinking through in Litchfield Christian School. How can we help encourage our parents to parent well and parent in a way that helps them accomplish the gospel in their child's life and a commitment to education? Communication is, again, I've already hammered on this, but one of the ways that we want to incorporate communication is parents need to be able to communicate their needs openly and accurately to the school, and we must strive to communicate what resources and support that we are eager to provide for them. And we've got to be able to hear our parents and understand their circumstances in a space where they live. And the same way, communicating with parents about their children and their development can either hinder or hurt this partnership. And so, this is a very complex process, but a necessary process. And so, I'm going to kind of hone in on this a little bit because I think this is one of the cornerstone issues that affects education and parents. And so, you know, we need to kind of define communication a little bit and maybe work that out and flesh it out. So communication, right? So Mike Smith, he wrote The Fundamentals of Management. Has nothing to do with education, but he just talks about communication inside of management. He says communication is an interactive process of providing and passing of information that enables an organization like our school to function officially, and for the staff and employees to be informed about developments within the system. Thomas Ogden says that communication is a process of increased community or sharing between participants based on receiving and sending messages. Very technical definitions, right? But just stay with me for a minute. I'm going to sum this up in just a second. Tracy Salamandora offers a kind of a simpler definition. She says defining communication is passing of meaningful messages from one person to another or a group of people, right? Good communication must be effective, requiring that those receiving the communication understand the message. That's huge, right? So if you were to take all three of these definitions, and they all have something in common: cooperation, sharing, and meaningful information, right? So getting all three components to effectively sync on a consistent basis makes communication both complicated and vital. And so what we're going to do as a school in our communication, we're going to first start with cooperation, right? At Litchfield Christian School, we see cooperation and communication as an intentional, positive relationship between parents and educators that fosters community and partnerships for the success of the child. So, cooperation allows both the parents and the teachers and the administrators to pass on meaningful information that helps the educational process and addresses developments inside the child's growth. Cooperation allows parents and teachers and administrators to support each other as a community as they work together to achieve these goals. So we have to be cooperating. Collaboration. Collaboration and communication is an interactive process between parents and teachers, administrators who share ownership, and they work toward a shared objective and giving meaningful information that fosters community and supports the partnership for the child. Collaboration is a network of purposeful connections that allow open lines of communication between parents, children, and teachers. We have to be able to collaborate and work and offer our insights, each individually and as a group, right? Now, the key to this, so you have cooperation, you have collaboration, is meaningful information. Meaningful information is information that's relevant, that's accessible, that's manageable to parents and children and teachers. It's relevant in that it's specific and it matters to be shared, and it matters to the shared objective of parents and teachers. It's accessible in that it's information that's properly organized and clear. There's endless scores of material out there that does not equal meaning. It doesn't equal communication. So we have to make sure we're clear and we're concise. And there's, because there's a negative correlation between giving information and understanding it. As information increases, meaning often decreases. And so meaningful information is manageable when it's communicated in smaller amounts consistently over a period of time. So we have cooperation, you have collaboration, and you have meaningful information. And so those three components have to be inside of our communication with parents and teachers in the school. So with that in mind, we want to create something called a communication planning guide. We want to be able to have an effective form of program to home and home to program communications with the families, addressing opportunities for growth, addressing upcoming events, addressing their children's progress, and valuing cooperation, collaboration, and meaningful information. We want to create an effective communication planning guide. We want to use this framework by Joyce Epstein to invite parents to form things like action partnerships, action team for partnerships. That's what I'm looking for. Action team for ATPs. The ATP can survey parents to find which means of communication is most helpful. The action team for parents for partnership can collaborate with the school, headmaster, or the principal to create an effective communication planning guide. The planning guide can allow parents to be involved in creating policy for communication channels. such as websites, social media, email, text messaging. Furthermore, the school can utilize parent volunteers who would use their discernment on how to make the most of today's communication channels, things that we could use to communicate, collaborate, meaningful information. Teachers can ensure that effective communication is taking place with their children. Again, keeping cooperation, collaboration, meaningful information key. Home visits at least once a quarter. Being inside the house, talking to mom, dad, guardian, grandma, grandpa, and just making sure that everyone's on the same page. Sending home weekly or monthly notes discussing student progress. Sending home a text message, a video type text message that can be reviewed by parents and have the opportunity to comment and return to the teacher. Obviously, sending home a student report card detailing how tutoring has helped improve grades or good comments, positive things that we see that's happening inside the child. Maybe creating a weekly schedule for useful email notices, memos, phone calls, newsletters, other means of communication. Teachers can provide clear information on the role and nature of teachers and students, and making sure that everyone's on the same page. Information on program policies, any kind of reforms, any kind of transitions that are happening, keeping with transparency. So these are just some ideas that we can do for communication. And we want to be effective communicators, and we want to be effective receivers of information as well. Decision making is another component. One of the ideas that we have a school-based decision-making committee, or being able to allow parents to speak into reforms that need to take place inside of the school. So maybe creating a council to promote some kind of shared leadership among those who are closest to the students, the parents, the teachers, and administrators, coaches. And this kind of council can help us better understand curriculum, staffing, discipline, scheduling, instructional practices, extracurricular activities, matters of pertinent to the operation. The council can help the school set policy to provide the environment to enhance student achievement. This could be a wonderful opportunity for parents to engage the school at deeper levels, making a parent-based council that can lead to help organize cooperation between the school and the community, highlighting opportunities for us to get connected to the police officers or the firefighters, or community needs, and particularly in Litchfield, like Hearts United or other nonprofits like that. The parent-based council can be influential in creating and maintaining a network of meaningful connections between our families and established community organizations, like I mentioned, is Hearts United or food pantries or the hospital or different things like that. And so there's a lot of opportunity for decision making inside of this context. Volunteering, one of the things that we want to do is not just require volunteering. That's going to be a part of our school, but I think creating meaningful opportunities to volunteer, so that the volunteers create deeper bonds and relationships with those who they're serving, whether it's the teachers or the students. And maybe the PBC could recruit volunteers to serve as aides inside the classroom during fellowship time or worship time, during chapel. Parent volunteers could be invited to assist. Something we're going to have in our education, something called a sponge room. That's John Savage idea from Academy of Individual Excellence, but it's kind of an educational play. Sponge room is a place where special educational projects are taking place. We can have parents involved, be engaged in educational activities with the students. We can have them help them with math and reading. We can have parent volunteers be invited to serve even inside the kitchen, to serving inside the maintenance. There's just a lot of opportunities that we're going to invite parents to be a part of it, because we recognize that parent volunteers are going to be the backbone and the support of the community. We also want to make opportunities for learning at home. So, keeping in line with the 6 parent involvement framework, learning at home provides information, ideas to families about how students at home can deal with homework and other curriculum related things. but we can provide parents with resources and materials that help the instructional process. One of the things that we did was we grabbed a curriculum that we knew that parents would be able to easily engage with, something that they're probably familiar with. That's kind of been one of my critiques of, say, Common Core inside the public system, is I don't feel like the curriculum allows the families to be able to engage much at the dinner table. And so we've intentionally grabbed a curriculum that we know that parents should be able to sit down and utilize that curriculum as they're working on homework, as they're working on different things at home. We want to provide parents with maybe short videos sent through text messaging or class tag or something like that, that offer instruction from the teacher that says, hey, this is what we're doing in class. This is how we're doing it. I just kind of want to show you the process, so that parents now have a resource to look at home to help them work through the process themselves with the student, inside of, memorizing scripture and things like that, scripture sheets for writing, memory verses, faith talk instructions, that kind of thing. Any kind of resource we can give at home to help that process be easy and seamless, and engaged, where mom and dad or grandma and grandpa walk away feeling good about the process and the child actually gets the work done. Finally, in the community aspect of things, we want to have a strong community component, because we want to coordinate resources and services from the community to our families. And we also want to be able to take our children and our families and give back to our community. So it's not just receiving services from the community. That's important. And we want to create that, programs that could provide information for students and families about community health, cultural, recreational, social support, and other programs. But we also think that it would be important for there to be a civil engagement where families are able to do service projects and give back to the community, and to be able to have parents help coordinate and plan activities, service projects for our school to do in the community. That would be amazing to me as an administrator to see in our school. We also want to develop really good relationships with the police and other community programs, food banks and shelters, because sometimes our families are dealing with some things, and the police have to show up, or the fire people have to show up, and it's usually in some kind of traumatic situation. And so we want to try to introduce our children and our families to these folks who serve our communities in a way where it's not traumatic, where it's super engaging, and they get to have an experience of growing a deeper relationship with some of these folks, and maybe even be inspired to serve in these kind of nonprofits or these kind of services inside the community as well. And so this community aspect to our program, I think could be really remarkable, and can provide us with an opportunity to see not only strong parental involvement, but we can see this kind of community growth and this pride that we're looking for inside of our school. And so looking at that and using these components, the parenting, the communication, the volunteering, the decision making, the community aspect, and the home learning and whatnot. Maybe you're kind of like, why, aside from the benefits of it helping the child, aside from understanding that when a parent is engaged in a child, they do so much better, what else is the benefit for the school to do this? And I think, I've already done a podcast on, we want to be a family ministry minded school. We want to create a community where parents get to come together and enjoy their families, and enjoy a family atmosphere. We want to strengthen marriages. We want to strengthen relationships between grandmas and grandpas, and we want to have a high value of fathers, and we want to train singles up, who are going to be future families, and care for the orphans and the widows. We want to create this environment where people are connected, and this is a place where the family can come together to be a family. It used to be this way inside of school. I don't think we're much like that anymore. And some schools may do a better job of it than others, but the school used to be, aside from the church, used to be one of the main places where families get together. We want to create that here, and so having parent involvement actually marries well with our vision of family ministry. And so we want our parents to be engaged in the educational journey because, one, we know it's a superb benefit to our children when their families are engaged. And two, it contributes to our desire to have family ministry coupled with our education. And so, as a school, we want to invite you to come and be a part of this process, this building process. And so I just want to kind of close here with just a commitment to you as the headmaster of Litchfield Christian School, that we want to empower children with the goodness of the Lord, so that they can live wisely, do well in the church, community, and home. And we cannot do that if we keep parents away from the educational process. It is vital that the parents and the school have a working relationship where they feel supported and they feel encouraged, and the school values the parents as the primary disciple makers of the children, and values the contributions that parents offer to the educational journey, and that we train and evolve and equip parents to do the best they can with that, while we also create an environment at school where learning is robust and virtues are upheld and wisdom is given so they can live wisely. And we just think that is going to be a remarkable aspect of our school. It's going to be an enjoyable aspect of our school. I think parents are going to find themselves making close friends with other parents. I think they're going to be able to see an opportunity to give a lot of their gifting to something that's really life-changing, life-giving transformation, such as education is. I think that parents are going to find a place here where they thrive and they flourish along with their children, so that we can empower students and their families with the goodness of the Lord, as they seek to use their gifts in the church, community, and home. So I just invite you to think about these things, to join us, to be a part of it. We're going to have another open house come up in April, and hopefully a picnic in May. If you are really interested in registering, we invite you to do that sooner you can. We're trying to hire teachers, and we want to hire teachers according to the number of students we have. And so we're kind of in this tension where we need both the students in place so that we can put the teachers in place. So if you are undecided or you're still praying through it, you're welcome to contact us. You're welcome to come and tour the classrooms again. You're welcome to sit down with us and ask questions. We have an open door policy. We just look forward to engaging you, and hopefully that this will be a place where God will lead you to be involved and engaged in your child's journey. God bless you and take care.